So you don't shun the devil with your rock and roll load. Knows that country music's gonna save your soul. The devil finds his groove in them rhythm and blues that send. It's gonna get you sun in the end.
Welcome back to the Speakeasy. I'm Sother Teague.
And I'm Greg Benson, and I saw a movie this weekend. Sother.
Yeah? What'd you see?
I did. I saw Hokum. It was pretty good, but that is not what I want to talk about. I want to talk about the movie-going experience.
Okay.
Regular Speakeasy heads will know that I'm a big movie guy. Love going to the movies. Really, really enjoy not just the craft of film, but also the act of sitting in a dark room with a whole bunch of strangers and absorbing that art, because I think that is really the way the medium is meant to be enjoyed.
Sure, it's a collective experience, right?
Exactly. And like, you can stream from your couch, but it is not the same.
Nope.
It is not the way these movies were meant to be viewed. You can do it, but to my mind, it is a paler, weaker cousin of the experience of going to a theater.
I mean, it's the same thing we talk about all the time. You can make a drink at home, but going out to have a drink is where the experience is.
Yeah, precisely. And talking of the experience, I saw this movie at Alamo Drafthouse, which is, at least if we're going in terms of, number of franchises, the most successful model of this whole movie theater as bar concept. And used to be, there was a time where they were very, very, very vigilant about, if you were on your phone during the movie, we will kick you out.
Sort of famous for it, really.
Yeah, that was kind of their thing. And I sort of love that. I think that people should be allowed to hoot and holler and express themselves at the movie, as long as you're doing it within, the way that the movie demands. Again, it's art. You're supposed to react to it, but like, don't be on your fucking phone. Don't be texting. Don't be doing, whatever while there's a movie on the screen. That's a light in the theater. It's distracting. I don't want that. That was their whole shtick. And I went there this weekend, saw this movie, reached for where the menu was so I could order some popcorn. Then I find this little.
Yeah, you were just having popcorn. I find that hard to believe.
Yeah, I know. It was not. There was no popcorn under there. There wasn't even a menu. It was just a little laminated thing that was like, here, you want to order something? Scan this QR code and order it on your phone.
Oh my!
Yes.
Wow, very counter to their reputation.
Yes, and I want to extrapolate this out. I don't want to just dunk on Alamo, because this is something that I have experienced at other places. In fact, the first place I ever remember seeing this is at Newark Airport, where despite the fact that there was a bartender in front of me, I had to order off of a tablet.
Yep.
And I think this is perhaps as clear an indication of enshittification of a bar of any stripe as you can find. I know you're not ordering from a person when you are at Alamo. You're not like waving someone over and being like, hi, could I have the truffle parmesan and a Long Island City IPA? You're not doing that, but you are writing it down, and an actual person is reading it, and you can write down, I would also like a water, please, thanks, without having to find the little menu option on your fucking app. And I hated it. And I think I hated it because it is a sign that these companies have found not a way to add to the experience, but a way to, this is a good way to trim an eighth of a penny out of every single guest interaction. And so we will make the experience of being in this bar / movie theater measurably worse for every single patron, but our shareholders will reap untold benefits as a result. Thoughts?
Well, I mean, my thoughts are immediately like, that sucks. Especially, I didn't realize the part about doing it on your phone. I had heard that they were getting rid of the sort of service staff, and then they were just becoming runners. But I didn't realize, and I thought it was going to be on a tablet, like you mentioned at the airport. I didn't realize it was using your phone, which is kind of a slap in the face, given that they were so staunch about, phone usage during the shows. And I have to imagine that this is happening throughout the show, right? You're midway through the movie, and someone wants another beer or popcorn, and their phone has to come out. I think I expect that I've already heard some rumblings about this, and now we're discussing it, but I expect that there'll be a lot of backlash, and maybe they'll change their mind. Did they roll it out entirely in the whole company, or are they rolling it out slowly to test it? Hopefully they didn't just go for it all at once and there's no going back.
Well, I mean, that was what I thought. I heard that this was a thing that, was being rolled out, and I thought, well, surely this is going to be like a pilot program, or surely they're going to warn people about it. Nope. And again, this is just my anecdotal experience from this one thing. I can't speak for the Alamo Drafthouse in Fresno, California, but I'm sure it sucks. Because it's Fresno. But it's the same problem I have with like Waymos or delivery bots. I think if you had told me at age 16, hey, one day there are going to be little robots running all over the world and delivering packages to people, and cars are going to be able to drive themselves, I would have said, wow, what a beautiful and wonderful future. But now when I see those things in actuality, I think, oh, that's a job that a human being had. No one invented this because they thought this will make the human experience better. They invented this because, thank God, now we can stop paying these NPCs a living wage.
Right. Yeah, just one more way to cut out the human connection, and especially like you said, when you sit at those bars at the airport, and there's literally a bartender right there, but you speak to the pad in front of you. It just removal of the human connection on yet another level is frustrating to me.
And my order showed up wrong. My order showed up wrong the first time I did that at Newark, and they were like, well, like it says here on the tablet that's what you ordered. I'm like, I where it says on the tablet that it's what I ordered. It's because I ordered it from a fucking robot and not a human being, and this is not the way that we're used to getting products and services when there is a person standing in front of us. I don't know. To state the obvious, it bothers me, but I think it bothers me.
It's bothering me when I don't go to the movies that often.
Well, I think it also bothers me again because of what it's indicative in a larger society, right? Is that there is this push to remove the human touch from all of these interactions. Again, not because it will be more efficient or more pleasant for people, but because it means that a handful of people will get immeasurably more wealthy, while a huge number of people will have an avenue of potential income close to them.
Capitalism will end us all.
You know, like none of these things, none of these algorithms, we like to think of them as objective and impersonal, but they're built by humans. And so they have human impulses and desires and biases built into them. And these things were not created to help people. I think of the line from Lord of the Rings about Sauron creating the One Ring, about how into it he poured his malice, his cruelty, and his will to dominate all life. And that is what I see reflected in these experiences.
That was a dark time at the Alamo Drafthouse for you this weekend.
It was a dark time in Middle Earth too, but you know what? They got through it, and so will we.
Sure.
I also want to do a little something that we don't usually do here at the top of the show. As you might have noticed, we're not a big call to action podcast. I figure that you're all adults. If you're listening to this show, you can decide what you like without me yelling at you. But I've noticed recently that we are not alone here on this little corner of the internet. There is, in fact, another podcast out there called The Speakeasy. Uh-oh. And Sother, what type of podcast do you think this is? What genre of show do you think this is?
I'm going to hope that it's about booze, but by your question, I'm guessing that it's not.
Yeah, it is not. It is, in fact, a Christianity podcast. I shit you not. And if you heard the phrase Christianity podcast and thought to yourself, boy, I sure hope the host doesn't have ethno-statistician political views that are deeply antithetical to the actual teachings of Jesus Christ, I got some bad news for you. Yeah. Now, why the people behind this would choose to name their podcast after a space that famously encouraged illegal drinking, fucking, and the social elevation of women, I have no idea. But here's the thing that bothers me, and here's why I'm doing this at the top of the show. That Speakeasy has more reviews than us. And this, as far as I'm concerned, is an affront to God's creation. So please pause this podcast right now. We'll still be here when you get back. Give us a 5-star rating and a glowing review, because I want to remind everyone that the real Speakeasy is a pro-science, pro-charity, anti-nationalist, pro-sex worker, feminist, environmentalist, socialist podcast that supports housing the homeless, healing the sick, and bodily chucking people with too much money out of your home as Jesus Christ intended, and it always will be. So please, like and subscribe.
Yeah, and leave us a comment and a rating, because I'm looking for it right now.
Yeah, they're ahead of us in the ratings game, and that, again, I find unholy. So please, if you can, I know we don't ask for it a lot on the show, but if you can give us a 5-star review or just a 5-star rating and leave the review space blank, we would love it. It really does help.
It does help. And also, Greg's recommending that you go out and do that for us. I'm not recommending that you go and do the opposite for them, but I'm not recommending it.
It's true. We are not saying that.
Yeah. Anyway, let's get into what we do.
Yeah, exactly. Speaking of people who I highly recommend and give 5 stars to, in the studio with us today, we have the co-founder of Casa Lotos Sotol and the mind behind its research, production, and sales. It's Aaron Dujovne. Aaron, thank you so much for joining us on the show, man. It's great to have you.
Thank you guys. Thank you for having me. Happy to be here.
Yeah.
Happy to have you here, man. This is great. I've been looking forward to this one for a while.
Yeah,
Awesome.
yeah. I think there's a lot of like mystery around Sotol, and I think we're going to dig in and get some information, not only for ourselves but for the listener too.
So I do have to start here. You're originally from Santiago in Chile, so I just have to ask at the top of the show here. You're not a pisco guy, huh?
I'm not a pisco guy. Well, I wouldn't say that. Actually, piscola has been part of my life. All my life, basically, since I started drinking until today, even sometimes. But a pisco guy, I gotta tell you, I'm a Sotol guy. But when I'm out with my friends, we do have our piscolas always. It's very nostalgic to have that piscola. And in Chile, that's the only way we drink it. And I still have it every now and then. So, I'm always going to be a pisco guy regardless.
Yeah. Well, we can't shake our roots.
Yeah,
Greg's
exactly.
being a little goofy, but in all seriousness, what then drew you to Sotol in the first place, and how did you know the market was right for Sotol to land at this time?
Good question. I didn't know that the market was right.
Yeah, we never know that.
Yeah, we'll never.
We
yeah.
hope it's
time
correct.
will tell, right? And it's looking like it's there, but I wasn't thinking about about the market. It literally started with a joke. We were with a couple of friends in Mexico, and we were having tequila and mezcal as we usually do when we are, having dinner and having fun, relaxing. And somebody in the table said, you know what? After a few drinks, right? They said, you know what? Maybe we should start a tequila or mezcal brand. Like that would be so much fun, et cetera, et cetera. And I was like, maybe I'll start looking into this. And so the night ended, and obviously everybody forgot, but I didn't. So I actually started doing my research. I started calling distilleries in Jalisco, distilleries in Oaxaca, doing the whole thing. I even got samples of mezcal and tequila, and this was during COVID. So this started, the joke was like December 2019. So during COVID, it was really the research type kind of phase, right? And at some point, I told them, hey, you remember about this joke that happened? And they say, yeah, I remember. Well, I actually have a sample of tequila, a sample of mezcal. And what we figured out was, you know what? I had to go to Mexico, and I had to really go after it and kind of figure this out. And Sotol wasn't even in the picture there. I didn't really know what it was. Mm-hmm. But I went to Mexico. I went first to Jalisco, the land of tequila, right? Spent a good amount of time there, met a lot of owners of distilleries, master distillers. And one of the guys tells me there, you're very interested in this. Have you ever heard of, because I told him I was going to Oaxaca next week. So he told me, you know what, you seem very interested. You should go to the north. You've heard about Sotol? And I said, no, I don't think so. He said, well, that's very special, very different plant. You should go to Durango, he tells me, because in Durango, in the state of Durango, they have a double denomination of origin, he tells me, between mezcal and Sotol. So maybe you should go there. So I go to Oaxaca next week. I do a little bit more research. And next thing you know, I say, you know what, I better go to Durango because I'm already here and I'm in this mode of discovery and curiosity. So I go to Durango and I arrive to a town called Nombre de Dios, the name of God. And I said, well, in this town, something got to happen, right? Something cool has to happen. So I go into this palenque, how they call it there, and it's a mezcal, really, for the most part. It's a mezcal, let's call it distillery for simplicity, right? This distillery. And I see people, when we were doing this tour, I see people distilling from a tiny still. And I asked the person that was doing the tour, explaining everything. I said, hey, I have a question. What is that? Because it looks like a little bit different and it's a tiny still. And he's like, don't worry about it. That's only for us. We don't really distill that here. We are a mezcal palenque. So I said, but what is it? It's Sotol. So I was like, no way. That's what the guy in Jalisco told me about. I need to try that. I need to try that now. So we go there. Like it was, I don't know, a 2-minute walk. I mean, it was right there in the distillery, obviously. So I try it. I loved it. I said, I need samples of this. I tell you, I forgot about tequila and mezcal. I said, I need samples of this. It was very different. And he tells me, well, for that, you have to go to Chihuahua because the real producers of Sotol are in Chihuahua. So I said, how close is Chihuahua from here? And he's like, it's a 6 to 8 hour bus. You should do it in bus. Don't do the plane. It's very simple and blah, blah, blah. And I said, you know what? Put me in contact with as many distillers as you have because they're all friends. They know each other. And I'll take a bus and I'll just do it. And well, it didn't take 8 hours. It took 22 hours because the bus broke up. Yeah, it was not great, but I made it.
I had a similar experience on a bus through the middle of Mexico. They're comfy. I'll give you that. The buses are very comfy, but you're on there for a lot longer than you expect.
Exactly. They're very comfy. I must say that. And I arrive and a distiller picks me up and with his kid. And I stayed there for about 3 weeks. I went through the whole process and came back with about 30 flasks. I don't know how I made it through customs, but I did. I didn't know the rules, right? Ignorance is bliss. I was like, yeah, you know what? Nobody will say anything. Nobody did. And I tried it with my friends, right? I said, guys, what is this? Do you like it? Without telling them, what was it? And it's tequila, it's mezcal. And they were like, this is tequila, is it mezcal? But it's not really. I said, no, guys, this is Sotol. And I explained to them about Sotol, and I told them about the whole thing. And they were like, okay, we are all in. Let's just get it going, right? And one thing that everybody would say, or a lot of people, not everybody, but they would say, it's different, but it's mezcal-like. They would say that comment a good amount. And it was mainly because this was cooked in the pit, right? And that's where the smokiness comes from. So I was like, we need to allow this plant to shine through because it's very different than agave. And I called the distiller. I started going back and forth all the time to Chihuahua. And we built a brick oven and we connected solar panels. So you remove the smoke, but most importantly, you remove the wood because in the desert it's really difficult to get wood, guys. It's very far away from the distiller. It's a pain in the ass, right?
Right.
So we removed the smoke and the wood out of the equation. And then I came back with just one sample and everybody was like, okay, this is something very, very different and unique. So that's really how it all started about 6.5 years ago, I did the first trip. So yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
And I want to dig into this whole Sotol versus agave thing because Sotol, for our listeners, it's not an agave product. It actually comes from the desert spoon plant, so a different plant on a biological level than mezcal and tequila and raicilla, et cetera, do.
Yeah, the desert spoon is more closely related to asparagus than it is to agave.
And onion, yeah, it's Liliaceae, it's called. It's a different family.
Yeah.
Which is fascinating because it often gets lumped in with agave products at trade shows and at liquor stores and on cocktail menus. So I want to ask you what balance you're striking as you're educating the consumer between informing them about your product, informing them, no, this is this cool new thing that's different, but also kind of riding the agave success a little bit because tequila and mezcal have just been a rocket ship to the moon for the last decade. And I'm sure that's a ride that you would be foolish to pass up.
Right. We are very grateful for tequila and mezcal. That's to start, right? They're amazing spirits. We all know them. They're very mainstream right now. And so what's good about that, obviously, is that imagine 20 years ago coming with a mezcal to New York. It must have been incredibly difficult. The palates weren't ready, right? The cocktail scene, probably some of them, they were very embracing, but some others was like, this is too crazy for me right now, right? And today it's very different. Today they're used to these spirits. So they're like, oh, Sotol. And okay, and why is it different? Well, it doesn't come from agave. It comes from the Sotol plant. But what really stands out is where this plant comes from. It's mostly about the terroir, the plant, right? This is a desert plant. And I actually have a plant right here. Like if I turn the camera, you'll see a Sotol plant. You want to see?
Yeah, let's do it. Yeah.
I have it right here we have it in an office. So you see that plant right there?
Oh yeah.
That's a Sotol plant. And when you look at it, it's very different to an agave. The agave has very thick leaves, and this plant has very thin leaves, and it has thorns. Okay.
Yeah.
So
it kind
the
of looks like me when I need
difference-
a haircut a little bit.
Right. So the difference is this plant grows in the desert, in areas where many agaves couldn't really survive, because this plant with 100 ml of water per year survives. It doesn't need any more. And this plant also, well, because it's wild, it only grows wild for now. What happens is we are not feeding them fertilizers. We're not feeding them anything to grow strong. So they feed off the land, right? So they're going to have more flavors, right? More minerality, more herbaceousness.
Yeah, they have a really deep root system, which pulls lots of minerals out of the earth, right?
Exactly. Very, very deep. And also it has, this has male and female. So it's a little bit different than agave. And what happens, I don't know if you are familiar with agaves, that when the quiote is called, the flower starts to blossom, you need to cut it because the sugars start to go to the flower, right? And then the agave kind of dies. In Sotol, that doesn't happen. In Sotol, the quiote can grow, it can fall back, it grows again. It doesn't have a set life cycle. So that means that we never have to rush in order to harvest the Sotol plant, which makes it to a degree more eco-friendly, because we're never rushing to harvest the plants.
Let me ask this question to you then. Like, say you're doing a tasting at a bottle shop somewhere, and someone really loves your product, and they go and they buy a bottle, and as they're paying for it, they go, "Oh my God, I love agave products." What's going through your head? Do you correct them in that moment, or do you just kind of go, I don't know, a sale's a sale? Like, how would you approach that person who's enthusiastic but misinformed about what it is?
No, I would actually, that's a great question, because it happened. I've been in 1,000 of these situations, right?
I was going to say, I'm sure this isn't a hypothetical.
No, today I'm going to be in that situation at some point, right? No, I correct them, because I do say the comment. And remember, this is not agave, right? Because it's the only way in which it's slowly but surely going to stick. Like, even if they get home and they still call it tequila or mezcal again, right? Like, if for 1 second they were like, okay, this is not agave, then they're going to hear it again. And that compounding effect has to stick at some point. Maybe it'll take a couple of years, but I think, to me, it's very difficult to just let it go. I always try to put it in people's minds, like, this is not an agave product. Yeah.
Yeah. And, like you said, it just takes time, and people who are adventurous are going to seek out these sorts of things. And, we had a great bar here in New York called Maya Well, which was helmed by a guy named Phil Ward. And, I remember, I'm pretty sure it was Phil who introduced me to Sotol 20 years ago.
Wow.
And I'm surprised at the slow rate that it's grown. Like, Sotol and Racia were definitely on the menu at Maya Well, which Maya Well has now been closed for over 10 years.
Right.
Oh my God. Why would you do that to me, Sother?
Sorry, buddy.
Why would you do that violence on me today?
It's not quite 10, I think. They closed in 2017, so 9 years ago.
Oh, thank God. Yeah, 9. Not quite there yet.
Yeah. But both Sotol and Racia were on the menu there, and they were, and first of all, when they opened, mezcal was the new thing. And then slowly those things started to come onto the scene, and Sotol being kind of the last of them. Talk a little bit about the dissimilarities between the end product, the actual liquid, because often people compare Sotol to certainly tequila and mezcal, but they also often compare it to gin.
Yes. And it depends, right? So Sotol, since it's very terroir driven, always the right question to ask, I think, is, where is this coming from? Meaning, what part of the desert or the grassland? So in Sotol, there's 3 main terroirs. The number 1 is the desert, very arid, very dry, right? The number 2 is the highlands of that desert, very green, earthy, botanical. And the third one is the grasslands in Durango, mostly. It's like where they make also mezcal from agave cenizo. So asking that question, what you're kind of more or less gonna get, right? If it's a Sotol from the desert, you're gonna get a ton of minerality. You're gonna get herbaceousness. You might get some earthiness depending on when it was harvested. If you get a Sotol from the highlands of the desert, you're gonna get something very green, lemongrass, some pine, right? You're gonna get those type of notes, earthy as well, but more like wet soil, okay, because it rains way more. And then in the prairie, that one is a little bit trickier, but you're gonna get something probably also very herbaceous, vegetal, right, and a little bit more towards the minerality. So it all depends where it comes from, that it's going to make all the difference with the Sotol.
If you're hearing the sound of my voice right now, I've got some bad news for you. You are only getting about 60 to 70% of the conversation that we had today with our guest. But if you want to hear the whole thing, you can join us and become a regular on our Patreon.
That's right. To hear the rest of the conversation, join us on our Patreon, become one of our regulars, and you'll receive all kinds of perks, including ad-free listening, so you won't have to hear us do this again.
And in addition to ad-free listening and longer shows, you are also going to get cocktail recipes from all of our guests, access to our live monthly hangouts, and a free cocktail kit each and every month from our good friends at Shaker and Spoon.
So head over to Patreon and become a regular of the Speakeasy. We'd love to have you there. Cheers. Well, before we jump too much further into distilling process, can we talk a little bit more about the farming process, how you're getting these out of the ground, then into fermentation, and then we'll dive deeper into distilling?
Okay, so you said harvesting?
Yeah.
And specifically because, with agave, famously, you have to destroy the entire plant in order to get at the sugar that's going to give you mezcal or tequila or pulque or delicious Quixote Imports agave nectar. But that is not true with Sotol. Sotol, you don't have to, the plant can survive after you extract the sugar. So how does that kind of change the farming process?
So actually it's going to be pretty similar. In terms of harvesting, it's going to be very similar. The main difference is going to be that the flower, again, we're talking about the head in harvesting. The flower is the one that doesn't get the sugars, therefore it can regrow. The plant, it is said at time that it can regrow, but I've spoken to the people at the local university that have worked with the plant for a long time, and they say it's very, very difficult. Okay, it can happen, but it's very, very difficult. So the harvesting process, it's going to be very similar, probably a little bit harder than agave because this plant has a lot of thorns, so it's not that easy to harvest. It's a little bit handle. Thank you. It's a little bit harder to handle, but after that, and remember, it's in the wild. So it's not in commercial fields where obviously it's much easier. You have to go much further away. So it's a little bit harder.
Right.
Process.
They're not in perfect rows that I can just go out and pluck them. You got to wander here to pick one, wander over there to pick one.
Super rocky, and it's very hot most of the time, very difficult in terms of harvesting. And from there, you go from the ranch, you go to the distillery, obviously, and then you are going to cook the heads of the plant, right, in a brick oven for 72 hours. And then you're going to cool the oven for 24 hours, let the plants cool off a little bit. And then you're going to shred in a mill. You're going to you're going to do it twice so that the fibers are exposed. And then you are going to ferment, and the fermentation is wild. This means we don't add any type of yeast. We allow the environment to do the work. And so that means that there's not really a set time for fermentation. If it's hot, if it's warm weather, it can be 2 to 5 days. If it's cold, it can be we've seen fermentations up to 12 days. And then you ferment, and then we double distill in copper.
How long does the distilling process take?
It depends on the size of the still. For us, it's going to be about 6 hours. So
the distilling part is fast, but you can't always guarantee your production schedule if you know that it's wild fermentation, and it might be 2 days and it might be 12 days.
Exactly.
So that's hard for scheduling the people. That's hard for scheduling the production. You've certainly picked a very easy product to make.
Exactly. Yeah, but it's the right thing to do.
Don't you want a challenge, Aaron? You need a challenge in your life.
No. It's a good challenge. That's exactly what we wanted. We actually, in every bottle, we do keep the batch number and the date and the bottle number, because each single one of them, not every bottle, but every batch is actually going to be a little bit different because of that wild fermentation. And I think that especially for a wild plant, right, that literally if you take it from this side of the ranch and then you go a couple of miles to the other, in another side of the ranch, you're going to taste a different experience because that side of the ranch might get a little bit more water, right? So it might be a little bit greener, right? This side might be a little bit drier, so it's a little bit more mineral, right? You want to actually allow the plant to do its work, allow the microclimate to do its work so that you can get that experience in the bottle. So we are good with those challenges. We like them.
I love the idea of a wild product that could be, you could have, again, plants from the north side of the ranch and plants from the south side of the ranch and have a specifically north side bottling that's a limited release. I love that shit. I eat that shit up.
Yeah.
But I imagine that if you were trying to scale this, there are more people than people like me who will buy one bottle and then buy another bottle and say, this doesn't taste like how I remember it. So how do you walk that line between those two, showcasing the wild and cool variants of this product, but also producing something consistent that people can depend on?
Yeah, and you guys are getting into all the challenges very quickly. You are definitely getting the picture exactly how it is. Because these are the challenges that we go through. I was having conversations about this in terms of profile yesterday, right? What we do is that we only work with one ranch. There's many, right? And that could really impact the flavors, which could be cool for something incredibly niche, right? But it's a problem to scale. So one thing that we do is we use only one ranch in one area. So, and we try to harvest as much as we can in the what we call the harvesting season, which is where it's a little bit colder. So the plant stresses and it generates more sugars, right? And by doing that, we do have some sort of parameter, right? They are going to vary, but it's not going to be as crazy as if we would change ranches or type of variety of plants, which that can get a little bit crazy.
Do you also make an effort to then sort of harvest from as much of the ranch as possible as you can, so to kind of homogenize, or do you harvest from the south and then from the north and then whatever?
No, you actually have to. Very good question, because in Sotol, since it's wild harvested, it's very regulated, right, by the Semarnat is called the organization, and you actually cannot harvest past, I think it's like 30% of a specific side of the ranch, for example, an X amount of acres, because then the plant doesn't regrow naturally. Right? Because they need to feel that they're still in their environment. So we never want to harvest as much as possible. We do it on spots. It's just that these ranches are very, very large.
Yeah. Of course.
But we actually need to follow very strict rules because you don't want to over harvest so that the plant feels that they are not in their environment anymore. That's incredibly important.
One of the things that I would maybe recommend to your acolytes is something that I have done in the past with smaller whiskey makers that were starting up, and knowing that each sort of year or season or even each batch of their product was going to be slightly different than the last. I tried my best to not completely finish each bottle before buying a new bottle, so that I could compare and contrast the changes that were happening as time marched on.
There you go. We have in the distillery, we are in the Inata, we actually have a wall that has every single batch that we've made. And so what happens is we come in, right? And when it's time for the profiling with the master distiller, we try them all. So yeah.
I mean, that's great for you. And that there was one of the distilleries that I'm thinking of immediately that I did this with was Kings County when they were very young. One of my bartenders, Chris Elford, worked at Amori Margo, but at night he was the overnight distiller because they just had 5 1-gallon stills and they had to run them 24 hours a day to get any amount. And they had a wall similar. And so then when I would start purchasing the whiskey personally as a consumer, I would keep a little from each bottle so that I could go back and taste when I bought the new bottle and see what nuanced little changes are happening. And that was really fun and quite educational for me. You might consider trying to, I don't know, you could mark the bottom of the bottle in some way and say, don't drink past here until you have your next bottle so you can compare them.
You were talking in terms of consumers. Sorry, I didn't get it.
I think
that's a good idea, because it also gives the consumer another experience, right?
It also gives them a reason to buy another bottle.
Yeah, yeah, that's not a bad. That's not a.
We're all about
bad,
depletions around
idea.
here, pal.
Right.
This actually brings me to something that this is actually a question that wasn't on our show map, but I'm just thinking of right now. We're talking about, you know, the roles that people have in these distilleries. And your official title is you're in charge of, well, you're a co-founder, but you're in charge of research. Is that correct?
Yeah, all the research, everything. Right, a lot of the research, exactly.
Research.
Yeah, all of the
I know.
research.
It's a
all
tough
of the
job, but someone's got to
future,
do it.
the present and future products. Yeah, everything. Research. I'm in charge of that, definitely, from the product side.
Well, let's talk about the products
dig a little
real
more into
fast.
that,
yeah. What do you offer on the shelf right now? How many marks do you have, and what are maybe some plans that you can reveal for the future?
Yeah. So what we have right now is just one product, which is the Blanco at 40% alcohol. And that's really been the product that we plan on getting bigger and being in as many bars and liquor stores as possible. But we are working, and we've been working for quite some time in other products potentially. One is a higher proof, which at 50% or 100 proof, which actually we've done a couple of. I always bring my bottles from Mexico, right? That just the ones without even a label, right?
Yeah. Piece of green tape.
Yeah. So we actually used a few of those samples of the high proof on a couple of trade shows, and people loved it. So that's a possibility.
Bartenders gravitate to high proof, man.
Yeah. Yeah, they love it. So that might be one. And then, interestingly enough, our distiller loves reposado. I don't know why, but he just, in the world of Sotol, normally it's just the Blanco, right? It's just the pure. So, but he loves reposado, and he put some a few months ago, and we actually have a little bit of añejo as well, which he loves. So that might be, since it's coming from the distiller, that's something that we might be looking into as well. He loves it. It's very good. I like it very much. I normally drink Blanco, but the reposado is very good. So these are two products that I think we're going to see at some point as well in the market.
Are you sort of pioneering that? I'm in my head. I can't really think of any other Sotol distillers that I know that are doing a reposado and an añejo. There's
a couple. There's, I think like two brands are doing it already. As every Sotol brand, they're pretty small, so I don't know if they're available here in the city, for example. But I think there is a couple. There's a couple of brands that have done it.
What's been the public's reception to Sotol, and frankly, like how do you figure that that's changed in you've been around 6 years, but like
right.
You know, like I said, I was introduced to Sotol, nearly 20 ago. And granted, I'm in the scene, so I'm sort of tip of the spear and learning about new things. How do you feel that the public is taking on Sotol?
I think it's been last year. There's been a lot of growth, and especially that's coming from the trade, right? What is happening right now is people are much more receptive because they've seen it more, right? Like we had an increase in cocktail placements of 100%. Like we doubled from 1 year to the next. And so I think that as it appears in more and more bars and more of the great bars that are here in New York, right? It spreads out it spreads out some more, and more bartenders are more willing to use it. Like when we started this, the first day out, it was very difficult to get people excited. Today, even if they tell you, that's the mezcal, but they actually know the name, right? Before it was like, what is Sotol? What is it? Now they, at least a lot of them, know the name. And when you get to a lot of these bars, now they actually know that it's not an agave. Like they actually know what they're working with, right? So it's been a big change, especially the past, I would say, 12 months.
What do you attribute that to? Where do you think this burst in education in 12 months has come from for the consumer?
I think what happens is more and more people, more and more brands are really pushing to make this more known. And what happens is a lot of great bars starting using it, and then people go to these bars and they get educated. So they tell you why this drink is special, right? Because everybody wants to give people something special when they get into the bar, right? And Sotol is pretty rare and special for the average consumer, especially, right? And so as they get to know about it, and on top of that, they have great product. The cocktails taste great, and they like the spirit by itself. The ones that sip on tequila and mezcal will like this as well. I think little by little that creates that awareness and stickiness, right?
Let's get to the final question we always have for our guests. Where are you drinking these days? You got a place anywhere in the world or here in the city that you are enjoying going to drink, either your products or otherwise, just something you want to shine a light on?
Yeah, I like employees only. I love that bar. Super Bueno. I'm very close by, so I go to Super Bueno a good amount.
All right, you live in the East Village, right?
Yeah, those are probably my top two. But I started going for Guinness. I like Guinness. So Banji, it's a brand new place in the East Village.
Yeah, from Jill. She left International Bar where she worked for years, and she opened up Banshee, and it's great.
Okay, great. Yeah, I've been there probably the past 3 weeks for a Guinness. A really good Guinness.
I said Jill. I meant Jen. It's Jen.
These are the three places I've been the most in the past few weeks, and Employees Only has been definitely my number one go-to bar.
I know it's a very well-known and famous bar, but man, it is the best place in the city to go for steak tartare.
Yeah, very good.
Yeah.
Very good.
Honestly, best steak tartare in the city.
Yes.
And I also just want to give a shout out to people who can pour a proper Guinness. It is not as easy as it looks. That's true. And also just another, we began this show with me shaking my fist at the sky. Why don't we end it that way? I was in the beer market of a grocery store near my apartment recently, and I was like, wow, if you want anything that's not a hazy IPA or a lager, you are shit out of luck, my friend.
Right.
An entire fucking wall, a whole aisle with two choices. So people who can pour a good stout that is malty but not sweet and do it well, and you can enjoy several of it because it's low ABV, I say that is a underrated skill and treasure. So
it's appreciated.
Good on Jen. Aaron, this has been fantastic. Thank you so much for coming on the show.
Guys. No, thank you.
No, this has been super informative. I've been honestly very, very curious to ask you some of these questions about Sotol because it's not a thing that I knew as much about going in. So I was just, for me, really looking forward to this interview. If our listeners wanted to follow along with your exploits and learn some more cool stuff, where should they follow you and where should they follow Casa Lotos?
So I actually don't have social media, but I use
Good for you.
I use the Casa Lotos one. So any question, anything, any comment, I'm there at Casa Lotos on Instagram. So anything, any questions, I'm there all the time, taking a look at the inbox, and I'll for sure answer anything.
Excellent.
Fantastic, man. Well, this has been wonderful having you. It's been really, really great having you on the show.
Yeah.
But that is going to do it for us this week on the Speakeasy. However, if you still long for the blasphemous caress of this podcast, you can become a regular on our Patreon. Our regulars get ad-free shows, a longer show, cocktail recipes from all of our guests, and something new this month, a curated selection of seasonal bitters from Bitter Queens down in New Orleans. They're a delightful LGBTQ company that is making amazing small batch bitters. And if you want to try some and support this show, you can sign up and become a regular today. And when you do, you will also get access to our monthly after hours live hangouts where Sother and I get together in Meat Space to have a drink in real time with our regulars. It's kind of a part AMA, part live stream, part we locked the doors an hour ago, so you're going to have to smoke inside type of experience. But it's always a fun time. The next one is Monday, May 25th at 8 p.m. Eastern. And if you want to join, you can become a regular today. In fact, the only thing worth having in this life that you can't get as one of our regulars is our weekly update from Sauced. And Sother, you and Tim actually did a personal fave of mine recently, Drunken Noodles, which is a misnomer in 3 different ways.
Yeah. I won't give away the whole of it there, but yeah, we did Drunken Noodles. I think the biggest misnomer part is the noodles. Noodles aren't even a requirement to be in this dish. So that sucks. But we had a great time with it. Next up, we're going to be doing, I don't know what show drops next, but I know that this week we're recording barbecue ribs, which I'm gonna make in what I call Manhattan style, meaning anyone can put whiskey in their barbecue sauce. I'm going to put whiskey, vermouth, and bitters. I'm going to make a Manhattan sauce.
Fuck yeah.
So, as we say on the show, let's get sauced.
Who eats all of this food? I haven't actually ever
So
questioned
the benefactors, of course, are Tim and I, but then our respective ladies as well, Gabriella and Natalie, and then I got the kids out front at the bike shop. So whenever we're making all this food, there's lots of it, and so it gets flowed over to that. But you could certainly be part of it too.
I'm intrigued by these Manhattan ribs. Yeah, let me know. What is that, this week?
That will be recorded this week. I think it'll drop in 2 weeks, but check out the show. You can subscribe or you can just listen. Subscribers get some bonuses like the ones we have here on this show, as well as a bonus episode every month where we dive deeply into either a ingredient, a side dish, a historical notion, or a technique. And the most recent bonus episode was all about 2 different vegetables here in the United States that have had really huge nefarious financial situations happen to them. That one of them involved the mafia and one of them involved the the Securities Exchange Fund or Council. So yeah, pretty interesting stuff.
Food-based true crime. Check it out.
Yeah,
give it 5 stars.
That's the best way to put it. It's food-based true crime. Like one of them involves many people being bodily harmed and several people being killed. Crazy.
Which we know those sickos on the internet loved. So
all over a vegetable. Yeah.
Seriously, it's a great show. So check it out. Check out Sauced. Give it 5 stars. Give us 5 stars. Leave a review. And be sure to tune in next week when our guest is going to be Stuart Walker from Fettercairn. He'll be joining us to talk about all things Scotch whiskey, including some very, very old vintages that they are debuting. So be sure to tune in for that. But until then, cheers, everybody.
Cheers, gang.
So you don't charm the devil with your rock and roll, Lord knows that country music's gonna save your soul.